The essay Tradition and Individual Talent by T.S. Eliot. It was written and published in the year 1919. Now, this year must be remembered. Eliot begins by saying that the word tradition is or has become a word of censure for the critics. They hesitate to use this term tradition, or they hate to judge the other writers or other authors' work on the basis of tradition. According to him, the critics nowadays they judge or analyze the work of other writers only on the basis of their individuality. So Eliot highlights the importance of the art of criticism by asserting that it is not just an evaluation of work of art, but criticism is something that gauges the quality of your own intellectual capacity, right? The poet is disassociated from his tradition. Okay, we marginalize or we detach the writer from his or her tradition. So this is a wrong way. Here he is very clear that the new work, that every new work of art embodies the best of its past, embodies the best of its tradition, either instinctively or unconsciously. Next, Eliot tries to explain the meaning of the word tradition. He says that imitating a tradition or following the rather following is the correct term, following the tradition is does not mean that the new poet or the new writer is copying his past or imitating his past. It only means that, or it only requires, he writes, reading and critical knowledge of the literature of the past. Following a tradition does not mean that you are still stuck in the past. You have to understand the core meaning of the tradition, why that particular tradition has been or had been established, and look at it from the modern lens and reacquire it in your life. Similarly, he's saying that in order to follow a tradition or a poet or a history does not mean merely imitating what already has been written in the past, but understanding the core of that work, understanding the core idea of the words that were written, and rewrite it according to one's own understanding and critical sense. Historical sense, says Eliot, involves a perception not only of the pastness of the past but of its presence. So, the understanding of the present of the tradition, present tradition, how the tradition today has to be understood is important. And why tradition is important? It is because no poet or no artist of any art has his complete meaning alone, writes Eliot. Now, also as a reader, you cannot understand a new text until you have an idea of the past, until you have an idea of the classic texts. Eliot also reminds that following the tradition does not mean pressurizing the new writers and poets. Okay, the tradition cannot be a lump in their throat, it cannot be a factor of guilt, it cannot be something that haunts them, that one has to follow the tradition, otherwise the work of art is incomplete. It does not make any sense. For even the new writers must choose, they must select according to their own sense, according to their own understanding. Which tradition suits them, what kind of tradition do they understand, what kind of classic poets do they like, and they decide to be associated with. Basically, about the term tradition, you have to remember two things, or you have to understand 2 points. First, that tradition, according to Eliot, tradition is inevitable. Okay, any new piece of art has to be understood, has to be judged, has to be analyzed according to the past or according to any classics. Okay, the second point is that mere conformity to tradition is useless. Eliot claims that we have to follow the tradition, but simply imitating it blindly is useless. Okay, so these 2 points has to be remembered